Greetings, this is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct today from Black Facts Headquarters Central with another tale from the annals of Black history. Yes, coming at you with another tale. And I always like to deal with balance. That's a basic principle that goes throughout the whole universe. There's always this principle of balance. As is above, so is below. If you have something on the outside of a semi-permeable barrier and something on the inside, the two will mix until there be an equal amount of each on each side. And so these are just some basic principles. So today, actually for the rest of this month, I would like to focus on more women than men. Now, we don't typically follow the schedules that other people have set out for us, like, March was Women's History Month, and this is Pride Month, okay? We don't usually do that. So, we do what we do when we decide to do it. So, this month, for the rest of the month, we'd like to focus on more women because we know in July and August, we're going to be focusing on two men in particular, Marcus Garvey and Haile Selassie. So we don't want to overwhelm people with a male presence and no female presence. You got to balance it out. So today, we're going to be reading the story. We're going to start in on the story of, boy, I've got so many women over here. It's hard for me to pick which one to start with because I thought about starting with one, but now I'm thinking I might start with the other. Well, I'm gonna do more than one for the rest of the month anyway. So for today, we're gonna be continuing on in Africa for a little while longer. Yesterday and a couple of days before, earlier in the week, we'd been focused on Uganda and the expulsion of the Asians, the so-called Asian expulsion. And so we related that back to Juneteenth. So now we're going to relate the story of Winnie Mandela. And from her autobiography, My Soul Went With Him. My Soul Went With Him. So this is really about her and Nelson Mandela. But before we do that, we always have to do the needful, so I don't have to get too pleadful around here. And that is, if you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and give us a like. If you're watching us on the tube, give us a thumbs up. No matter where you're watching, the watchword of the day is, make sure to share what you've seen here with the people you see over there, the people that you know over there. Spread the word far and wide, from north, south, to the east, to the west, up above and down below. Share the word all over the place that Black Facts are here. And if anybody wants to learn more about themselves, this is a good place to come because we focus on the men, the women, and the children. We don't like to divide people up into various categories and only focus on men or only focus on women. We want to deal with the whole ball of wax. So let's go ahead and start in with our proverb of the day. Let's see what we got for today. Here we go here. This is a good one right here. Saying that it's for her child, she gets herself a loaf of bread. Saying that it's for her child, she gets herself a loaf of bread. How about that one? Saying that it's for herself, for her child, she gets herself a loaf of bread. And that is a proverb from where else but Ethiopia, of course. Where else would it be from? One day we're going to run out of Ethiopian proverbs. I don't know when that day will be. Apparently it's going to be sometime far in the future because we keep on coming up with new Ethiopian proverbs we haven't read before. So let's see. Okay. I'm going to read from the back of the book. I always like to look at the outside of books. I have a way of reading books. And the way I read books, I start with the cover. Okay. Obviously, you're going to look at the front cover. The front cover is the meal ticket. Okay. It's meal ticket time. That's what sells any book, is what's on the front cover. The back cover tells you a little bit about what's inside. Usually it'll give you some kind of a synopsis. Sometimes the synopsis is better than others. And then when you go inside the book, I always look to see, well, does this book, if it's a novel, it's probably not going to have an index. But if it's not a novel, I will look to see, does it have an index? Does it have any appendices? And I will actually look at the book from the back to the front. I'll look at all the photos. Oh, wow, look at the photos here. See, like I got a photo here of Winnie Mandela. Look at that. Nice photo of her there. Okay. So I'll look at all the photos. I'll go through the book, look at the photos, read some of the captions, get an idea of what things the author wanted to illustrate. Okay, because we know one picture is worth 1,000 words. So if there's 10 pictures, I can get 10,000 words read real quick just by looking at the pictures and reading the captions. Like here's one here you never seen before. There's one there of Winnie inside of a prison. I'm not sure which one it is, but there she is inside of a prison. All right, and then once I've done that, then I go ahead and read the actual inside of the book. And for this one, since it's a brand new book and I haven't even really cracked it yet, I just kind of know what's in the book. Then I'm gonna go ahead and bend down the front page, and I'm gonna bend down the back page, the outside cover of the book, so that it'll read easily. And this is a process I go through with every book. It was something I paid $1,000 to learn. It was all part of the Evan LeWood's speed reading course that I took when I was in college. And I really needed to take that class because they were throwing so much stuff at us that we couldn't keep up, in terms of reading material. They'd be giving us so much stuff to read. It's like, how in the world do you expect anybody to read all this material and be able to digest it? So I decided to take a speed reading class, and I do actually feel like that speed reading class has helped me on down the line all the way into the present. And one thing you want to do here, you're bending this cover down so that when you open the book, you don't separate the cover from the pages. With these paperback books, you can often separate the cover from the pages, especially if the book gets a little bit old. All right, so sorry for having to take so much time doing this, but hey, you just got a free lesson that cost me $1,000 to learn, and you got it for free. So don't forget to make those donations when we get to the end. Hello. All right, so let me read what's on the back. Start with that, and then we'll get right on into it. Let's see what we got here. It says here, Winnie Mandela, one of South Africa's most visible and articulate apartheid foes, is a banned, quote unquote, person in her country. She lives under virtual house arrest and may not address public gatherings or meet with more than one person at a time. For 23 years, she has endured a forced separation from her husband, Nelson Mandela, the man most South Africans considered to be their true leader. Here, in interviews and letters, she tells the story of her life and political development. In my younger days, it was quite different. But any squeak of a little policeman who came to question me today would just be wasting his time. We would just end up insulting each other. That's all. One day, Nelson just pulled up on the side of the road and said, "You know, there is a woman who is a dressmaker. You must go and see her. She is going to make your wedding gown. How many bridesmaids would you like to have?" That's how I was told I was getting married to him. It was not put arrogantly. It was just something that was taken for granted. I just asked, "What time should I be there?" That's right. When Nelson Mandela says jump, you don't ask any questions except how high. The way I got the news of his arrest was terrible. I don't know how I reached home. I knew that this was the end of normal family life, as was the case with millions of my people who have lived like that before. I was no exception. Part of my soul went with him at that time. And I probably should have got the hardback edition of this book because the print is very, very small. Okay, so we're gonna skip the what was that part? Editorial note. They just talk about how the book's written and that it's written in an unusual style. So we'll just take that for granted that this book is written in an unusual style. By the way, if you've never seen a baobab tree before, that's what you're looking at with this image right here. That is a baobab tree, and they're found from Cape to Cairo. You'll find baobab trees in the south, the north, the east, and the west of Africa. Very unusual tree. Typically, they get hollow inside, and a lot of times they're used as almost like a cistern. They'll catch water from the sky, and people will go there with their buckets and put them on a rope and dip them down in there and be able to get water that the baobab tree has caught. Introduction. You take the plane from Joburg to Bloemfontein, the capital of the Orange Free State, when you want to pay a visit to Winnie Mandela. For the last 40 miles from the airport to Brandfort, you hire a car. I nearly always go by plane. It is too far to drive if you want to be back in Joburg on the same day. Brandfort is about 300 miles away, and the roads are none too good. The road from Bloemfontein to Brandfort crosses a stretch of countryside with a charm all its own, an open plain stretching as far as the eye can see, occasionally broken by a few flat-topped mountains. It is one of the Earth's geographical whims. These curious high plateaux scattered over the vast plain of the Orange Free State. Now and then you see one of the huge clusters of trees which protect the farms from the scorching summer sun as well as from the icy winter storms. Because keep in mind, South Africa, even though it is in Africa, is so far south, penguins come up on the beach all the time. So it's pretty close to the Antarctica. There are huge stretches of grassland with here and there lonely water pumps whose wheels move in the wind and impose their monotonous rhythm on the whole countryside. In the evening, they are silhouetted against the red sunset, bringing to life the unique poetry of this empty landscape. It is the typical Platteland, the very center of the Afrikaner territory, the Orange Free State. I've traveled this road to Brandfort many times at different times of the day and at different seasons, but this part of the country always remains the same, somewhat too austere, with its hard, shadowless contours, almost as if there were no life in it, no change, no time. Perhaps this is what one of my friends meant when he called this countryside archaic and added, it fits the people. Indeed, when the Orange Free State was founded in 1854 as an independent Boer republic one group of settlers actually wanted the original law of Moses to be made part of the new Constitution. The farmers who lived widely separated along the road to Brantford, who, like their forefathers, breed cattle and sheep, and whose family names are Praetorius, or Yule, or Retief, or Potgieter. They are convinced that this part of Africa was uninhabited before they took possession of it, that Almighty God, who has guided them from generation to generation, who has wondrously delivered them from the dangers that beset them, gathered their forebears together from many lands and gave them this for their own. This is what the preamble to the South African Constitution says, and the Boers believe every word of it. No historian, not even reality itself, can teach them otherwise. They should have known that the land was not uninhabited back in 1836. Dr. Andrew Smith, the leader of an official expedition sent out by the British administration of the Cape Colony, had made a detailed report of conditions in the tableland of what is now the Free State. The area was settled by various small ethnic groups in a state of rising political tension. It was ruled by Mantatisi, the widow of an influential Sotho chief, a woman of great intelligence, beauty, and political talent. Brantford is a typical small Afrikaner town. It is regarded as a white town, although the whites make up only 1/4 of the total population. There are about 3,000 whites and 9,000 blacks. But the blacks, who are the original inhabitants and real owners of the land, have no role. Their ghetto has no name. It is out of sight, just as Ma Ntatisi and her subjects played no part in the plans and calculations of the trekking Boers back in 1836. If one tries to find out what it is that makes the Afrikaners cling so determinedly and desperately to the fiction that South Africa is a white country, several reasons crop up again and again. The religious motive is at the forefront, yet closely connected with this are very profane motives. Indeed, greed, fear, and the desire for power. When the British prohibited the keeping of slaves and even started to think about a constitution which would give equal rights to all races, the Boers left the Cape. The niece of the leader of the trek, Piet Retief, expressed their views. And yet, it is not so much their freedom which drove us to such lengths as their being placed on an equal footing with Christians, contrary to the laws of God and the natural distinction of race and color, so that it was intolerable for any decent Christian to bow down beneath such a yoke. Wherefore, we rather withdrew in order thus to preserve our doctrines in purity. The situation today echoes these feelings. There are 10 churches in the district of Brantford, 9 of them for whites only. I came to Brantford for the first time in 1977. I wanted to see the place, which had been confronted with Winnie Mandela completely out of the blue one day in May earlier that year. Had her arrival been, figuratively speaking, the long overdue encounter between Piet Retief and Ma Ntatisi? I drove past the town sign, past the Volksschule and the Andries Pretorius Park. I did not want to attract attention, so I parked the car intending to go to the center on foot. It turned out, however, that I was already there. The very first road which I had turned into quite by chance, was in fact the main road, or rather the only road in Brantford, the Voortrekker Road. On every visit to Brantford, I tried to fight out the anxiety I felt as soon as I passed the first few houses on this road. I tried to convince myself that the police cars continually driving up and down the Voortrekker Road were just part of the picture, as in any other South African town. If I, as a visitor for a few hours, felt defenseless and somehow exposed in this forsaken spot, what must be the feelings of the woman who has been living here for 7 years now and who is under 24-hour police surveillance? There is not much to see in the town itself. A few shops on either side of the road, the Stanford Bank and Barclays Bank, a police station, 2 small hotels, a post office, a petrol station, 2 churches, the beer hall for the blacks, never missing in such places, and the pavement roofed over in simple colonial fashion. There are a few minor roads with bungalow-style houses where the whites live, 1 supermarket, a newsagent's, the railway station a little farther on, and 2 huge grain silos at the end of town. That's it. End of story. So we're going to end our reading of this introduction right there. I don't know who wrote this introduction. Doesn't tell me right here. Okay. But certainly a very interesting story as they begin to tell it. So, like I told you before, we deal with Black history all over the globe, not just in the USA, but we always try to relate the stories that we hear in one place to the stories that we hear in another place. And today we are relating the story of Winnie Mandela as related to Juneteenth here in the USA. What many African Americans may not always realize is that South Africa, more so than any other country that I know of in Africa, is more like the USA, and the people in it are more like us than we are to a large extent. If you want to know more about that, go to Netflix and watch some of those those Netflix films that are situated in South Africa, and you'll get my drift. You'll begin to understand what it is I'm talking about. So, enough said. We'll be back tonight at 9. This is Doc Ock at noon and 9, signing off. Look for us again, because we're going to be right here with a great big grin from our ear to our chin. And we will be reading, what book are we reading tonight? I think we're going to be reading, we're going to start a new story tonight. I told you this, the rest of this month we're going to focus on women, okay, because I haven't focused enough on the stories of women, mainly because I don't find as many stories, good stories to read as I would like, but I'm working on that. So tonight we're going to start for the children. We're going to be reading the story I Always Wanted to Be Somebody by Althea Gibson. And Althea Gibson was like the Simone Biles of her time, but with a twist. Because if you mess with Althea, she's liable to come and punch your lights out. And I ain't talking about just on the street or in a bar. I'm talking about if you did that to her on the tennis court. She'd be liable to go right up in the stands and say, all right, Duke City, put them up. Put up a shirt. Yeah, that's the way she was raised. And so we're going to read about that. We're going to learn about Althea Gibson, how she was raised, how she came up, how she got involved with tennis. And I don't know how much of this book we'll be able to read. We're only going to read it probably for about a week. And then we're going to go to another story, okay? Because we have a number of stories. So we want to just do an introduction to a number of different women. We're looking for a woman to feature for a whole month. And I believe I have one here I could do that with, but I haven't decided to do a month for her yet, but we're working on that. So keep looking out. Make sure that you give us a like if you're watching on Facebook, and give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. And then don't forget to become a sustaining member of the Black Facts family. It's easy to do. Just go to our website, blakfacts.org. If you're not catching all of that, there's a link, okay, in our YouTube video in the description area. you'll find a link directly to the website. You go there, click the donate button at the top in the right hand corner, and you'll go right to a donation page. You can also donate on Facebook using your phone, your laptop, your computer, your pad, your whatever you got. It's easy to do there. If you're on your phone, go to your notifications for Facebook and you'll see a link there. If you're on your laptop or your desktop, then just look right below each live stream and you'll find a link there. So we try to make it easy peasy lemon squeezy to support what we need to support, because we've been supporting Starbucks and Amazon and Walmart and a whole lot of other people. We provide them with more money, more money, more money. But right about now, it's time to do what Marcus Garvey say. Do for self. So, peace out without a doubt. Look for us tonight. We'll be black with some more good stories just for you and the chillin' too. In the meanwhile, peace out without a doubt. Of course, with justice, because anything less disgusts us. And let me just say, let me wave to Moat City and Elizabeth. All right. And we're going to go ahead and transition to our extra.